If the Tampa Bay Lightning season ends again at the hands of the Florida Panthers, you're going to see some major changes with this team. I'm going to tell you why on today's Locked on Lightning.
You're Locked on Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked on Lightning your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Tampa Bay Lightning podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we want to begin by giving a shout out to our everydayers, those of you who tune into every single show, every single day. We love you and appreciate the support you give us week in and week out. I'm Nick Morgan, and I am joined by the blowfish to my hootie, Greg Steven. Greg, welcome in, bud.
Good morning. Good morning. We're another day closer to regular season NHL, so here we go.
We were talking, and it is a week and 2 days away is the first regular season game.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems
it's at Benchmark International.
It is the artist formerly known as Emily.
Exactly.
How long is it going to take us to be able to say Benchmark International Arena just off the tip of the tongue, like we were for Emily?
I've been saying to all my Tampa friends, I just call it BMI now. I'm trying to get that to stick in the community. I'm like BMI. So we'll see how it works.
It sounds like you're hooking them up to like the most exclusive club in Tampa.
Yeah. You guys check out BMI yet?
Bro, I can totally get you into the BMI this year. Yeah, you're gonna love this guy Nikita Kucherov down at the BMI. Yeah. Big regular season action coming up here next week, but we still have 3 preseason games to get to, all against our Battle of Florida counterparts, the Florida Panthers. That includes preseason action tonight, 7 p.m. in Orlando. That's going to be cool for, different part of the state to see some NHL action and a good preseason game, too, between two of the best teams in the NHL right now. Obviously tonight's matchup, Greg, it got me thinking about the whole Lightning-Panthers rivalry as a whole and just where it is right now. Because you look at where the Lightning are, 3 straight first-round exits. 2 of them have come at the hands of the Florida Panthers. Now, granted, they did win the Stanley Cup in both years. But to me, I think the pressure is on the Tampa Bay Lightning this year to get past the Florida Panthers. And I think it's more pressure than anybody in the NHL thinks. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I completely agree. I think you're spot on. If it goes the same way, changes need to be made. And I don't want to see big changes, but you can't just keep doing the same thing, right? I think, I don't know where that begins as far as what they would do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think the pressure is on. I think we touched on this as well. They need to take the regular season points a little more seriously as well, because maybe you don't match up with them in round 1, right? And you give yourself a little bit of a confidence boost in round 1 and win. And then when you go face them in round 2, potentially, it's a little easier because you've already got that. Okay, we got the round 1 jitters out of here, right? So I don't know. I think that's the easiest. If I have this challenge ahead of me personally, I'm thinking in my mind, let's not match with them in round 1. And I'm doing everything I can to do that.
To me, it's one of these things where if the Lightning lose to the Panthers, it's going to be either in the first round or the second round.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way the playoffs are formatted.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good enough for the Tampa Bay Lightning for another first or second round exit? That to me is the beginning of the conversation. Is with the players that you have. We're going to have the Locked On NHL did a player poll about the 100 best players in the NHL, and I fully expect Nikita Kucherov to be in the top 5.
Yeah.
You have the best offense, one of the best players in the NHL in his prime, one of the best defensemen of our generation, one of the best goalies of our generation.
Mm-hmm.
I would say still on the edges of their prime.
Yeah.
If you're looking at this, forget the opponent, just looking at this from a roster management standpoint, having that roster and not being able to get past round 2 in 4 consecutive seasons, that's one of those things that make a GM go, okay, we're clearly experiencing a hole in talent somewhere. And I know I want to take a step back because I know it's the Florida Panthers, and this is a different beast the past couple of years. But you also look at just the history of sports, and you look at a situation like the one we have here, which is a team unable to get past another team and it kind of being their blocker. The most famous one is, the Maple Leafs and the Bruins for what seems like the past 2 decades, where even when the Leafs were at the point where they were kind of the favored team, they just couldn't find a way to beat Boston.
Didn't matter.
And you saw them jump in and you started seeing them change things specifically to beat the Bruins. They had the whole thing where they signed Ryan Reeves because they were getting out-muscled by, Brad Marchand on a play. And you look and it's like those two guys are never going to be on the ice for the same matchup. If they are, David Pasternak's going to go right past Ryan Reeves.
Oh, yeah.
Look in the NHL West and look at what has gone on with the Kings. Losing in the first round of the Oilers for 4 straight seasons. And you look at how much change they put in the roster. They cleaned house last year. And they were a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
A pretty good regular season team. And because they couldn't get past the Oilers, they cleaned house. They shuffled the roster. They let some guys go. They brought in some new faces. That's what happens when you can't get past one team, is you start looking at how do we beat this team. And I'm not sitting here saying I think that's the best idea for roster management. I think you should just make your team as good as it is, but it is the block that makes GMs go, okay, we're good against everybody else except this one team. How do we get past this one team? And you start obsessing over it. And that's almost where I think we are with the Tampa Bay Lightning, where if they lose to the Panthers again, Julien Brisebois got to look at this roster and say, why aren't we beating this one team? We're a 100-point team. We flirted with a division title this year. What's going on? What does Florida have that we don't? And I think you're going to have some major questions for some of these players. Now, I'm not saying it's like they're going to trade Nikita Kucherov and Brandon Hagel and all these players and start the rebuild, but I think you're going to maybe see a new strategy. You're going to find a way to get a new voice in there. Does that mean there's somebody other than John Cooper? I don't know. I don't know if that – I don't think you're going to find a better coach than John Cooper, but it's one of those things where if he can't get past Florida again, JBB's got to ask that question. Do you need a new voice? I don't think, like I said, I don't think you're going to clean house, but I think you're going to take a look at some of these players on the core. And, we mentioned, hey, we might need to, maybe shuffle some of the offense at some point via trade to maybe get a deeper defenseman or, a younger defenseman to kind of build around when Victor Hedman crosses the retirement bridge or ends up, losing his prime. Do we do that? Do we start seeing him make more aggressive moves to get some fresh players in here? Do we see them maybe go like the Matthew Tkachuk route where you're able to trade a long established member of your core for another player? Those are all questions that I think are going to be asked if Julien Brisebois and John Cooper don't get this Lightning team past the Florida Panthers this year. I think the success of the team and the direction the team goes after this year directly impacts how they do against the Florida Panthers, particularly in the postseason.
Yeah, 100%. And you asked one really good question, and it says, what does that team have that we don't, and why can't we get through them? And my answer to that question is they're too soft. The Cats are so physical. The Cats are just too physical. And to me, it's not even a Lightning issue, right? They have just done such an elite job at assembling a squad of guys who are all that same grit, fight mentality. And in my opinion, no other team in the NHL is even close to that level. No one. And unfortunately, that wins hockey games. That's just how it goes. I actually made the argument last season to people that followed my old page that the Stars were a similar team. Actually, I thought they were very gritty. They have guys that play that same style, and they have a lot of talent on their roster. I actually thought the Stars were going to win last season, and they fell short. I just still think the Cats are way tougher than even the Stars. It's just it's tough to get through. It really is. Like, no matter what changes you make, they have I think it's 6 to 9 guys I think are locked in now. And all of those guys that they have locked in now are those type of player. And that's going to be tough to combat no matter what. And I think the answer is, can we get through them with just raw talent? And I don't know what the answer to that question is. I think we're going to find that out this season.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Florida is one of the toughest teams to play against. And here's the thing I want to piggyback off what you said, because I want to take it a step further. I think the best teams in the NHL are the ones that force you to play the type of game that they want to play. And that's why we're like, but I mean, Colorado won a couple years ago and they were all skill guys. Tampa Bay won back-to-back, and I wouldn't necessarily, they were, outside of, Barclay Goodrow and, Blake Coleman, that line, like, tough, but they found a way to make you play that sort of, try to imitate their style and keep up with their style. Yep. The Florida Panthers, I think, do that with more physicality. They try to make you keep up physicality. The best teams, I think, are the ones that are able to do what they do and not have to adjust to the other team, but pull the other team into that style of play. I think Florida is really, really good at that, trying to get teams to play that physical game. And like you said, they're one of the most physical teams in the NHL, so it's hard to match up against that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So we did division previews last week. Florida was the first one we did. Since that time, everything's changed. The Sasha Barkov injury. Has our outlook for the Florida Panthers this year changed now that Barkov could possibly be out for the season? We're going to debate that question next. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season finally here, folks. We've had a good slate of games, except if you're watching Monday Night Football, because last night's action was terrible. But hey, whatever your team is, whatever game you want to watch, FanDuel has an offer for you. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. All you have to do is pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel gives you so many ways to play. You can build parlays. You can do player props. You can even jump into the action live as it unfolds with some live lines and some live bets. And it makes football watching even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or you just want to check in your fantasy team you have with your friends, FanDuel makes the game day experience way more fun. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Again, FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app and place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to Locked On Lightning. Nick Morgan here alongside Greg, Stephen, and Greg. Ever since we did our Atlantic Division previews, maybe we were a little bit of a curse for the Florida Panthers, because we did our preview episode. We talked about the Panthers, and then that day, Captain Alexander Barkov, one of the best, if not the best right now, two-way players in the NHL, really good defensively, really smart offensively, goes down with an injury, possibly out for the year. So, Greg, how does the Barkov news, knowing that they're already going to be without Matthew Tkachuk for possibly 3 months, change your outlook on how the Florida Panthers are going to do this year?
Forget exactly where I had them in my prediction that day.
I think you had them 2.
Yeah,
well,
I was going to
we
say.
haven't. Okay. Well, here's the thing: we didn't have our official.
Like,
we haven't had our official predictions yet. That's actually coming up on tomorrow's show.
Right.
So thank you for the tease. But yeah, we didn't have an official standings prediction yet.
This is a tough one for them. Your two best players, we'll call it, are out.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. Look, like we just talked about how gritty they are, and they have most of those guys minus the Chuck, but they need the talent too. And Barkov is a huge part of the talent of that roster. That's a massive loss. It is. He changes every game. He's just, his vision is so powerful on offense, and like we've talked about, like he's so good defensively. I think they're gonna have a hard time in the beginning. I do. I think it's gonna be an uphill battle for them in the latter half of the season. That being said, I don't think they missed the playoffs. I don't think that's not in question. I think it's really for them going to come down to one: will Barkov make it back for the postseason? Did they diagnose him with the full ACL tear?
I'm going to look up
I think they did.
What he had. He had surgery.
Yeah. But anyway, I've torn my ACL more than 4 times and had surgery every time. And let me tell you, it is a brutal recovery. It's I know these guys have access to, top tier everything, but it is so slow and it is a mental grind. And then you come back from that and then you have to play in the postseason. I don't know. It's going to be tough for any guy that comes back from a serious leg injury. It's in the back of your head for the rest of your life. It's just how it goes. So it's gonna be dependent on how he bounces back from this, right? And on top of that, Tkachuk, we've seen him play through injury, and this doesn't even look like he's hurt when he's out there. And we knew he was playing with serious injuries the last 2 years, right? And it doesn't even matter for that kid. He's a monster. But look, he's out 3 months too, and I forget exactly what's wrong with him. He had a sternum issue at one point. He's got all kinds of torso injuries, but
right.
Again, that's going to be, he's got to be able to come back within those 3 months, I think. Because if it's longer than that, that battle becomes so much harder for this team, as far as qualifying for the playoffs. Again, I don't think they miss, but it's hard to say because I don't know.
And here's the thing, though. If there's a team built to overcome this, it's the Florida Panthers.
Yeah.
Because let's not act like they were the only 2 players on the team either.
No.
Now, I think they drive what they do offensively kind of more than any other player on that team does. They had 3 point-per-game players last year. Those were 2 of them, Barkov and Tkachuk. Sam Reinhart was the other one. Those are your first line guys. Those are the guys that go out there and win that first matchup. And now you don't have them. And I'm with you. I'm not going to sit here and say the Florida Panthers are going to miss the playoffs. But I do think you need to find other guys to step up and maybe a different way to win some of these games. Because now all of a sudden you don't have 2 of your 3 most explosive offensive players. It kind of reminds me, Greg, of when Steven Stamkos first started missing time with some nagging injuries. And it was the same question around the NHL, which was, I don't know how the Tampa Bay Lightning survived this and be as good as they were. So, do you remember what happened? It's when Braden Point slipped into the first line and started to establish himself as a very, very, very strong number 1C in the NHL. And then Anthony Cirelli behind him moved up and played a bigger role as a number 2 center.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of had that level of talent behind Steven Stamkos who are willing to step up and take the next step. And I do look at the Tampa roster, and, one guy I look at, Anton Lundell, 23 years old, a former top 12 draft pick. This is a guy who has impressed during the playoffs a lot of times that I've seen him. I look at him and say, look, he had 33 points one year, 35 points the year after that, and 46 points last year. If he's ready to step up and kind of be the next guy, that's somebody that I think would fill the void really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
Same for somebody like Carter Verhaeghe. We know in Tampa that he has the ability to step up and maybe play, a little bit of a bigger role. You look at my favorite name in the NHL, Mackie Samoskevich. That's a guy that I think can step up sort of in that Tkachuk spot and maybe score from the wing a little bit more. They're going to have to do that to survive. I think they're going to need those guys sort of waiting in the wings to step up and not be in the wings anymore. That's, I think, how the Florida Panthers are going to get past this season, is having those guys be the one that step up and carry the team. Because if you're just looking at, okay, well, now we're going to play Sam Bennett on our first line, or we're going to pay, 48-year-old, Brad Marchand on the first line and expect him to do exactly what he did for the Boston Bruins in his prime, I don't think it works that way. No. That's the Nashville Predators way of trying to build a hockey team. The reason that Bennett and Marchand were so good last year is because they were playing a very specific role and playing that very specific role beautifully.
Yes.
I think when you start trying to get players to maybe play beyond what they are, I think that's where you run into trouble. And that's why I think the Florida Panthers, rather than just taking their line and moving them up, need to look at specific players and go, okay, who's ready to take the next step? I think Lundell, Samoskevich are the two guys ready to take that role. And I think Carter Verhaeghe is somebody that they can rely on a lot more for awesome offensive pop.
Yeah, and it's going to sound obvious, but I think they win by playing strong defense. And obviously they need to score goals, but this is a good defensive team. If they just play that way and they sneak in 2-3 goals a game, I don't see why they won't just be the same strength. Honestly, it's not like they lost anyone on defense, and they still got all those real physical guys. I mean, other than Tkachuk, he's a big part of that, but the rest of the lineup is, like we just talked about, the same. So I think you play physical, you play defense, you notch 2-3 goals a game. I think you get in easily, and you just pray that these two can come back and play hockey for you.
Yeah. Like I said, if there's a team built to withstand this, they're going to need some players to step up. But if there's a team built to withstand this, it's the Florida Panthers, which maybe is bad news for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But, it's just the reality. Preseason action between these two teams tonight in Orlando. What do you want to see from the Lightning squad in this preseason matchup tonight? We're going to talk about it on today's Locked on Lightning when we come back. Welcome back to Locked on Lightning. Nick Morgan here alongside Greg Steven. Greg, one of 3 preseason games against the Florida Panthers tonight in Orlando, 7:00 puck drop. It's going to be cool for the people in the Orlando area to get to see maybe some NHL action at their arena, and a fun one too, because these are 2 of the best teams in the NHL right now. So 3 preseason games in a row against the Panthers. What do you want to see out of these games, Greg?
This is going to sound silly. I think I want to see a lot less of the stars out there. And here's why. I don't want them to get hurt. And
there's one.
It sounds really silly and precautionary, but we know there's some bad blood between these squads. You throw Hagel out there against Ekblad, you just don't know what's going to happen, right? I would rather, even if they lost all 3 of these games, they're meaningless. They are. So who cares, right? I think we still need the Stars to get a little ice time. I'm not saying, don't skate them at all. I don't want them going in cold or rusty.
Yeah.
I don't want a Barkov injury or a concussion. I don't want anything. I just don't think it's worth it. And then look, we've seen how good the guys coming up are for this Lightning team. Why not just let them keep rolling? Let them keep battling for spots in the regular season. Let it battle for opportunities. Let's see what new guys can play against the Panthers effectively. Like, this is your chance. We just spent so much time talking about this is the team you need to beat to win the cup. I think you get through Florida, you win. I don't see why the Lightning can't win without going through Florida, after going through Florida. Mm-hmm. That being said, I think this is your chance where you have 3 games against this team. And look, they're not going to skate their full roster, just like we aren't. But you can experiment right now. Find out which of these new guys or these up-and-comers or these AHLers or these prospects, which of them is strong against this team, which of them is going to fight. And I think that starts with guys who have the mentality, like Dylan Duke. He talks about how he takes these matchups personally. Get him out there. Put him in all 3 of them. Let's see what he does. And that's where I want to go. That's what I think should happen. And I think I'd like to see Vasi in at least one of these. I mean,
yeah, and big news from John Cooper yesterday that said, Vasi's actually skated yesterday, kind of on his own, and he said he expects him to be back with the main group practicing today. So, good sign that whatever was going on with Vasilevsky is, I guess, nearing a completion, or isn't going to be a thing that keeps him out at the start of the regular season. I know that was a big question for us last week, so that's good. It's interesting because we haven't had a game yet in which we kind of see the full roster.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want at least one game like that. And maybe tonight in Orlando, in front of a different audience, is the night to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to happen because I know the rosters are usually let out. I know that John Cooper has kind of treated this preseason as a way to maybe get one top line in at a time. He played the Kucherov line one night. The next night he played the Brandon Hagel line.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of slowly rotating guys in there. But I would like to maybe see, one game where maybe you have your top 6 and your top 4 defensemen. And then some maybe AHL guys or somebody like Jack Finley who's competing for a spot. Jack Finley's done really well this preseason. I think he might have secured himself a roster spot.
He's a big boy.
He's a big boy. He's one of Greg's big boys.
Yeah.
That's a conversation for another show. But I want to see maybe a situation like that where you start playing more of your top guys together and just see, how your team can kind of overcome normal situations, power play. If you're down a goal late, or you're gonna get your top 2 out there to sort of chase it. Hopefully, if we're playing our top 6, we're not down a goal at any point. I would like to see maybe at least one game like that.
I can see that, and I think if you're doing it just like you said, Orlando's probably the day to do it.
Yeah, why not give them a little treat?
Yeah, it's like a little battle abroad, and just have a little fun.
Yeah. The other thing I want to see is just, and this doesn't have to be the top guys, because I'm with you. Number 1 priority is just don't get anybody hurt.
Yeah, health. Yeah.
The other thing I want to see is just for players to match the intensity of this rivalry.
Yes.
I want them to go out there and show that even though this is preseason, they acknowledge it's a rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying I need to see bench clearing brawls or anything like that, but hey, if you're a depth guy, if you're fighting for a roster spot, or maybe you're just trying to climb the ladder, maybe be a top line guy in the AHL, go out there and finish your hits. Go out there and prove that you're willing to try to fight to beat the Florida Panthers. I actually think the Joel Bouchard, who's the AHL GM and who coached the team during the prospect camp, did a really good job of sort of instilling the idea of that rivalry into when the Lightning played the Panthers in prospect camp. And you heard a lot of Lightning players say it after the game. He's like, we know this is, kind of exhibition, but we went out there thinking this was like the NHL rivalry. I would love to see some of your depth guys fighting for spot, go out there in these games with that same sort of mindset, knowing this is probably right now the number one rival for the Tampa Bay Lightning, going out there and matching the intensity of that rivalry, acting like you hate their guts, even though it's a game that doesn't matter, knowing you hate the team, not the situation. I think that's the biggest thing for a rivalry is it doesn't matter. The Lightning could be the dead last team in the NHL and the Panthers could be playing for a Stanley Cup. It doesn't matter. The Panthers should still hate the Lightning with all of their guts and vice versa. Like this should be the one game that you love to win, no matter the situation, no matter if it's game 7 of a playoff series, no matter if it's a random ass preseason game before the season that doesn't count towards the standings. You want to go out there with the mindset that you hate that team. And I would love to see the players who are fighting for spots match that mentality these next 3.
Yep. Well said. I completely agree. But this is why I fear injury. This is my number one reason to fear injury.
Okay. Well,
look,
I don't want to see Victor Hedman, squaring up against Sam.
Well,
Bennett.
obviously. Yeah. But look at what these preseason games have been. Like, I feel like I wake up every morning and I get on the show and I say, 7 other penalties, 3 fights. There was a kneeing penalty, and now we're gonna play the Panthers 3 times in a row. It's gonna get a little messy at some point. Let's be real.
It has been a weirdly spicy preseason in some games, especially the Nashville games. I don't know what was going on there, but there was a lot of stuff going on after the whistles and stuff.
And now you're playing a team, like you just said, teams that theoretically strongly hate each other. So here we go.
It's gonna be interesting to see what happens here. Hey, Locked On Lightning fans, thank you for following us throughout everything. Hey, if you want to listen to us more or hear our takes or just interact with us, follow us on social media. You can find us on Instagram at Locked On Lightning, TikTok also at Locked On Lightning. We're going to get that up and running here soon. Or on Twitter at LO_Lightning. As we get into the season, you're going to see more content from us, some cool behind the scenes stuff. We're going to have standalone fan of the week segments and everything like that. So interact with us. One of our favorite parts of doing this is getting to meet you guys and interact with you guys outside the course of the show. We just want to cheer on the Lightning with you. That's kind of our goal for this. So follow us on social media and also make sure you follow us and subscribe wherever you get your podcast, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, whatever. Make sure you notify yourself when new episodes drop. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Lightning podcast. Thanks for making this your first listen of the day. Back with a new episode tomorrow. We'll see you then.